Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad for all of those that are joining our LinkedIn Live session today. My name is Dijana from Grow My Tree by Impact Hero. And yeah, I'm really excited actually about the topic today because it really influenced to how we started our company. During also my doctoral studies, there has been a lot of conversation about responsibility in leadership, about the idea of shareholders' view on the economic world as we know it today, with Friedman theories, and then also a lot of understanding and bringing the word of purpose. And this is what kind of influenced to have this conversation as well here today, after building that company already for more than 2 years, and why purpose actually matters for organizations. In short, because it goes beyond making profits and really focuses on making a positive impact in the world. And that has been a great driver for us. And today also with our company, we are actually making tangible solutions to regenerate our world by planting trees or collecting plastic or restoring coral reefs and making that available for businesses, which actually we see as a part of the solution and therefore also multipliers of good in this world. And with this LinkedIn Live sessions, it's our third now already, we try to inspire and also bring in different perspectives of such a large and vast topic, which touches the part of corporate social responsibility, the part of ethics, the part of sustainability in general, and of course the topic of purpose. And those that already told us that might not be joining, not be able to join today, this session will be recorded. And yeah, also if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and we will take some time by the end of this conversation to answer them. Without further ado, I would love to invite a very special human being, given name of Julia von Winterfeldt. And yes, I welcome you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello to Hamburg, I guess.
Exactly.
So Julia, before I give word to you, I would love to say that, share a very brief introduction about yourself, maybe even more formal one, and then we'll go on the informal side. So Julia founded her company called SOULWORX in 2015, I believe. Knowing that digitalization and actually exponential tech growth really needs to be rooted in true purpose and core values. And SOULWORX, so it's a consulting firm, it's based in Hamburg, and has a true mission to unlock the power of human connection to really create more meaningful environments. Knowing Julia now for quite some time, and knowing many people that know Julia, has been a tremendous inspiration for so many small and larger companies. And especially what I at least really admire by you, that you're really trying to bring your previous more than 20 year of career in digital space, running businesses across various continents, and coming to that call of or hearing your own call, and still following your path of bridging this idea of human leadership with the business. I think you call yourself business hippie, which we can also explore a bit later. But yeah, for me, true inspiration in bringing real impact and change for many organizations already. Thank you for joining.
And, thank you.
Yes, and two simple questions, like who is Julia, and what was the moment or what led you actually to dedicate your time to purpose and actually become, I would call you Chief Purpose Officer.
Which actually is a term that's already being used. People like to name it, but that's something maybe we can get into. Who is Julia? I think probably I'd like to take the word business and hippie and soul and works. I would say up until the time that I founded my company, these two worlds kind of were separated in my life. I had business, I had hippiness in me, I had soul, which I hopefully everyone has in them, and I had works. But really, to the point of 2015, I was able to combine these really important, very two-dimensional now, but these important attributes of myself together. And I would say with that, I've been able to, really encompass the world in a different way, because I really do believe in every individual we have something that is non-logical and we have something that is very logical, and that's how I would describe myself. I bring both poles together. So that's maybe a little insight about myself. I would, in regards to coming to where I am today, I'd actually like to say, because you mentioned that I was 20 years in digital. I had a really phenomenal moment actually in 2014 where I visited a conference in San Francisco called Wisdom 2.0. And I bring this up because I think it may be relevant to our conversation. It was the first time this conference happened. It still continues today, where startups in the Silicon Valley came together with meditation and with what we now have mainstream in the world of mindfulness. So that was really the Kickstarter for me, because the word purpose fell, and the question that was in this conference was, how can Silicon Valley actually build purposeful startups that are not there to be sold in 3 years, but actually have a long-term vision that they want to succeed in. Yeah, so that's how I came to the world of purpose and felt I needed to bring this to Germany. And I think I didn't find a more difficult space to talk about purpose, because the DNA of if I can say so, of the German world, and maybe you can hear in my accent, I grew up in England, so I would call myself a global human being. Not only because I grew up in England, but I think in Germany, the way business is done, it's a little bit black and white, but certainly the German business world wasn't receptive in 2015 to the world of purpose as it was, let's say, in San Francisco at that time.
Yeah, funny enough, even though I heard you, of course, speaking at so many conferences, we even connected on a conference of beautiful business in Lisbon. And only now I'm actually realizing that there is some topic of San Francisco, even connection to me, because if you remember, the story that really influenced me was seeing a lot of homelessness in San Francisco, and like fifth richest economy in the world of California. Right now, even more advanced, but yeah, that was kind of moment that really inspired me to go in this path. But yeah, maybe a whole nother topic. And Julia, I mean, already, as you said, this really inspired you, or what you have been doing now. It's more than like 7 years, I guess, and there has been, I guess, a tremendous amount of conversation about purpose especially in the past few years. I mean, how does the term actually changed, since you started to go on this path, and how would you actually define the organizational purpose? So what is purpose, and why does it matter?
Yeah, and I would maybe to sort of just do the trajectory of the years that have gone by, I would certainly say back in 2015, at least here in the German market, again, the word purpose wasn't even able to be said in German. So for anyone who's here German speaking may remember that we wanted to use the English term, but had no idea how to actually pronounce it. So that already shows, at what level of knowledge we were at that point in time, in a more generic way. And at that time, it didn't seem to be necessary. Today, I would say, everyone gets the concept of purpose. Companies acknowledge that they need to really become purposeful. and they don't necessarily put it into what was, let's say, 2015, more of an esoteric kind of, go find yourself kind of thing, to we really need to do this because society, our clients, our employees are asking us to be more impactful, to be more meaningful. So certainly that curve over the past 7 years has really transcended into something that we need to do. And if you ask me, well, how would I define purpose? You brought up sort of CSR at the beginning. I see it as a unifying idea of both the commercial and the social problems a company wants to solve for its stakeholders, and really important, wants to solve it profitably, because you also said it goes beyond profits. I would agree to that. Sometimes people still believe that purpose is separate to profit, and how could these two things act together? And I really want to underline that, it's, purpose is there to solve commercial, social problems in a profitable way to all stakeholders involved. And that's why it matters as well. It matters to not only make it profitable, and I mean that in a sense of make it sort of add to a sense of well-being for employees, but it also adds profitably to clients and to potential employees and to the society as a whole. It's really trying to solve for bigger problems.
Exactly. And I mean, going to your concrete work that you are doing with companies, smaller or bigger ones, I mean, how do you usually convince a company to say, okay, purpose really matters, aside of why the company might be relevant for 10 years from now, and you should really start thinking in long terms. But what are usually maybe even challenges that companies would face in embedding purpose? But even in the first place, how do you really convince them practically?
I think I started off trying to really convince companies when I kicked off SOULWORX. I was really in more of a missionary modus of like, you got to do this and let me try and convince you. Thankfully, I would say today I don't have to do so much convincing, and that's because, and hopefully this will answer your question, companies, if I really sort of like break it down into a little mind model, then companies have one of three, if not all three, problems at the moment. And that convinces themselves that they need to go into the world of purpose. The first problem area is employees, if not potential and lack of new employees, or having no scarcity in people. That is a problem where they see they need to up their game as to why and for what reason they exist as a company. People want to feel attached to something that is bigger than themselves, and they want to really, it's an employee market, so employees will choose what companies are really doing and making an impact. So that's sort of one area of convincing, and they've already found that they have a problem there. The second area is more of a strategic area, which, problems of innovation or, with the market as it is. Again, I'm referencing Germany, with the difficulties of having to rethink now with inflation problems, cost problems, how can they become more effective, and where do they place their bets? And that's where, again, purpose becomes a nice directional element into why or where they should then invest or take decisions in order to progress the company. And then the third area is one that, just goes on to societal. I mean, I really cannot understand why no company would not think more purposeful today. I mean, we're at an eclipse at this moment where we need to shift. And if you don't know why you exist, then I don't think you will exist anymore, because either your clients or your customers will not want you to exist anymore and will turn their backs, and society will not want you to exist anymore. We need the market, we need business, we need companies to take ownership and to really drive in a more responsible way their ways of doing business. And so that's the third area. So again, I don't need to do any convincing, I think, unless, you know, the last quarter of Germany in the business world hasn't reached them yet. I think we're at a point where we need to do this, full stop. And it feels to me like it's a third wave of purpose. So in the 7 years where I've been dealing with this topic, you know, it's sort of the third wave. Now everyone gets it. Now it's about how do you execute it? How do you bring it to life?
Yeah. I mean, when we will have some challenging times, which for sure are coming, as in every company occasionally, I will just remind this little monologue now of yours and really get this inspiration, because I always love how you make it sound, crucial and necessary. And I guess actually it's even more important in challenging times to have some kind of orientation that you as a company can look towards and stay sober, right? And not just to simply react into external factors that are part of this changing VUCA environment. Yeah,
absolutely.
And when it comes to, I mean, also do you have any concrete examples that you could share with us? Like, which are the companies that you have worked with and how this work looked like?
Yeah, I do. I of course, and I think what's important to say up front is there are so many examples out there already. I mean, everyone can Google companies and, you know, type in purpose statement and company. And so, you know, I think we can see a number of companies that have already created purpose statements. But I would actually like to, and since we've called it beyond purpose, you know, what goes beyond the purpose statement, because it isn't the purpose statement. And I think that is starting to, you know, slowly go into the minds of at least a number of leaders. It's not about check marking the purpose statement, as we know too much about the second wave about purpose washing. It's not that. So again, I don't want to go into purpose statements per se. Everyone can Google and see which companies have it. I think it's more interesting to go a little bit deeper and then say, okay, who's actually executing on purpose? So, you know, some examples from my world, as you said, smaller and larger companies. We tend to work with large family-owned businesses that have a long-standing tradition, so over 100 years, 150 years. And one of the companies here in Germany, they've, you know, it's, of course, there was a long process of participation. So we don't actually involve, in this example, all 10,000 employees in finding purpose, as in the purpose statement, although that's not the end of the road. We've included, out of those around 10,000 people, at least 300 who've participated in finding purpose. And from there, utilizing these individuals as, in a way, ambassadors into the company to share and create momentum. Now, to make it a little bit more concrete, what we've found is that the best way of spreading the word in a positive sense is obviously through dialogue, but that means not having dialogue just for the sake of let's have a conversation, but having structured dialogue formats. So we go into teams. Now someone's at my door.
Purpose is not
Purpose is ringing at the door. It's about having teams really feel that they are enacting on purpose. Meaning, let's say you have responsibility in your purpose statement, and they dissect that word and describe for themselves, how are we participating and how we're working together in order to create the responsible action that we're doing. What is it that we can shift? Purpose is still ringing at the door. What is it we can shift in order to become more responsible in what we're doing? Because the word responsible seems to be key for this organization. That's one, dialogue, but even more concretely, how can you bring it into, the first step seems to always be sort of into HR processes or into the employee experience. What can we change in performance management? What can we change in bonuses? How does that relate back to purpose? What is it that we can actually do in our meeting structures that will relate back to purpose? What is it that we can do in regards to our feedback culture or into our Fehlerkultur, or mistakes that we do, the culture of making mistakes? So that is really trying to impress a new culture by relating it back to purpose. But obviously, when you go into the more strategic realm, as in new product development, utilizing the aspects of purpose into defining principles for new products. So that is the route of new product strategies, new product development. How do we take decisions? Are we on point with our purpose if we develop on this product, or if we continue into a new segment in our products? And then the third is really around marketing. If you get to that point, and I highly recommend not to go into purposeful marketing before it's really been embedded in the organization. But of course, you can do purposeful marketing and spread the word as to all the goodness that you're doing. A wonderful example is Faude, which is like the Patagonia of Germany, that has related it back to their CSR responsibility and are really driving transparency into how and what they're changing within the organization, how they're building trust within the organization, but also how they drive new product development and where they're making their investments. I think that's a brilliant example of how a company, and thankfully in Germany, and it's not always Patagonia or Whole Foods or Unilever, is really making a statement become real.
Nice. Great example, to showcase. And as you mentioned now, the part of, their sustainability or CSR action, and at the beginning we said as well, somehow seems that the notion of purpose, like at the very beginning, was very much embedded in the CSR conversation. But is being sustainable as a company equaling being purposeful, or what's kind of difference that you see? Because many things that you're talking about, we are similarly ourselves talking in the realm of sustainability or impact. And when we say, okay, what is the positive impact that companies creating, also actually starts for us bringing the sustainability at the core of their strategies, and then actually engaging in all the stakeholders with certain positive impact that they could be creating, and therefore being multiplier of change. But how is for you differentiation basically between sustainability and purposefulness?
Yeah, great question. I think, so for me, sustainability isn't purpose. I think that's sort of like first statement. Many organizations think because they're doing CSR or are engaging in CSR, that is their purpose. And I wouldn't agree. I think they are two separate things. To give it some logic, purpose for me remains at the core. And let's say, as I came up with this one example, the word responsibility is core to who you are and to what you want to move forward, or the reason for why you exist. And an outcome of that is then sustainability, or actioning on sustainability. But of course, today, sustainability in the world that we're living in is so highly necessary to think about that we put that at the top of our agenda. 3 years ago, we were still talking about purpose, but we didn't necessarily have this really dominant conversation around sustainability. But now, because of the way the world has become, we need to action that at the top. But it's an outcome of purpose, or it needs to relate back to purpose. It's not the purpose of a company. And the same goes to, sustainability in all aspects, whether it's social or ecological or even economical, how do you enact on that? And that's where I find the differentiation starts to happen. If you think of sustainability in a social context, what is it then on a social context that we can relate back to our purpose that will help, let's just say, employees as a first step, become have a better social well-being through the purpose that we are following.
Yes, very clear. And it's interesting also to see all these words in a way. By the time we met, there was a lot of conversation about digitalization, and in these years that have passed, we have come to purpose and to, of course, responsibility, sustainability, and yeah, in the end, you can see how everything can drive each other, or kind of really does start actually with the purpose. But there are core elements that drive and support each other. And I mean, what you were also referring just before that, so this need to really act responsibly, mobilize an organization to really embed purpose and act collectively to create that impact. When talking about then impact, how, and of course, companies are driven by measuring things. So how can company measure the impact of such purpose-driven initiatives?
Yeah, I would, I'm just going to stay in one field for the moment, and in the field of people in the company. Ultimately, it is the people that make up the company and make it successful. And what we found is, over time, obviously, of course, in the first couple of years, we were also driving more towards purpose statements and to, be able to articulate oneself well as a company, why we exist, what drives us at our core. And we found that in the course of, let's say, 3-4 years ago, the companies were great in articulating, but really sucked at bringing it to life. And the core reason that we then in our analysis found was that the relationships and the way that people connected within the company didn't relate to purpose. And we felt we needed to make an impact there and see how can we build relationships better in organizations? How can we, as you so nicely said at the beginning, how can we create power within human connection in order to create momentum in a purposeful way? So back to your question on people, we can measure today, and the KPI sounds, it's not rocket science. But the KPI is how engaged, how motivated, how loyal are people within the company as it relates again back to purpose. And that doesn't mean we do a once a year feedback. Let's gather from 10,000 people. How do they relate back to purpose? It's actually a continuous conversation and a continuous KPI, like, okay, where do we stand this week? Where do we stand this month? Where do we stand this quarter with this? So it's not a one time, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the year, we have an employee survey, and then we hear, 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 5 points, we hit the mark or we didn't. It's a continuous assessment, let's say. So that's on the people front. Of course, again, it's the same KPIs of, you could drill it down to numbers. What's the impact that we're having at what impact are we having as it results to revenue, as it results to profit? Of course, those numbers still play its relevance, even in accordance to purpose. But I think the best one really is around how have you recultivated your company? What shift have you made in your culture that now drives you to be more purposeful as a company? And again, you have the engagement, the loyalty, the motivation factors, but you also have how many people are coming into the company, how many people are leaving, which can at least describe a certain sense of culture. But the best one is, what's the mindset? What are the beliefs that the company is holding that will then describe the culture? and whether they're purposeful.
Great. I mean, I could go on and on listening to that, because I just feel this inspiration of, okay, I mean, we just tend to really forget, those things that are, again, so basic. And even now, after not necessarily thinking every day about, what is the purpose of our company, and but I just feel this will now to say, okay, people are really our greatest asset, and human beings that really create the environment that bring this inspiration among their team members, but equally to the customers. So everything seems so logical, but yet hard to do. And I want to, again, because time is always running up with those things, but I want to come to, I would say, for me as well, and I believe also for you, the most important topic, which is, again, how can you as an individual be as well that inspirational human being within your team or your community? And I guess there is this third focus of this conversation, the need for real inner work. And I mean, our work is connected a lot towards the moral framework of Sustainable Development Goals. And I've heard recently that there is a movement of inner development goals, which I actually love it. And, hearing a lot about inner work, why do you think it is important? And who should be doing inner work?
Yeah, I have to say, because knowing that we want to touch on 3 points today, I found again the great quote by the former, and I have to read it, and so I'm looking a little bit over, former CEO of Pepsi, Indra Nooyi, I think is her name, said. She said, in regards to purpose, said, if the CEO doesn't feel the purpose as opposed to just talking about purpose, people will see right through it. And that kind of, for me, bundles everything together, because if you as the CEO or you as leaders, are talking about purpose and you're bringing it into the company, you don't feel it and you don't sense it and you don't understand what it means to you and how you can connect to it as an individual and talk about it on a personal level, why you can really connect to this, then I really seriously say, don't even bother. So inner work, to find out what is it that you really stand for, what is it that you really want to exceed in this world as you choose your life to do something good. Then when you do that work, then you'll find the motivation, the drive, the willingness to participate, maybe not even in that job that you're doing now, but in another role where you can truly make a difference. Hence, everyone needs to be, or has the opportunity to do this inner work. And I think it will allow each individual, allow us all to grow, and grow to become maybe an even better person. If we as individuals become better people or better individuals, then we're going to do more good in this world, which I think is necessary. But that's me putting a little taint on it. I think we can all participate as best we can, and hopefully we all grow from it.
And I will go a bit deeper with that, because I feel like, even from my own personal experience, I would say that I feel like I'm trying to invest a lot in my own personal development, yet with every activity that I do, I just realize that it's just constant journey, and I get to learn more and more and more with every of such experiences. And and there are, of course, different stages and different experience of this inner work. And I guess yourself, you probably, in the work with leaders in the companies, or employees and teams in companies, you see different stages of development work, or inner development work. And I mean, what would you advise, where to start this inner work? What also maybe led you, and knowing how much of this inner work you did, and where are you now?
Yeah, I think So first of all, where to start? And I think it's a quote that you always love to say from Harari, know thyself first. And what I would put underneath that is to know thyself is not only to know, what drives me, what brings me pleasure to give, to serve others, which we could bucket under purpose. But I think also just to know, what do I value? What are my values even? What are my strengths? I think we so unnecessarily think we don't necessarily give ourselves the time in the world of work to think about that. But if we have that core backbone clear for us and put words to it so it becomes more conscious, then we can start to, and this would be then the second stage of really experiencing ourselves. Am I on track? Am I on track of this, what I know about myself, where I can best participate as myself? Then I can start to experience it. And with that, as you say, you go on a journey and you live life, but you live life through positive filters that give you the pathway on which you want to really walk, where you should walk, and you're not being driven by outside forces. You're driving yourself onto that journey. And for me, it's I love it. And maybe that brings us back to business hippie. For me, it's a spiritual journey as well. I really do believe that we need to bring in our spiritual side, which sometimes is this non-logical. We don't know, but we are somehow knowing of it. But I do rely on knowing myself in that I know where I want to participate, what my values are, what my strengths are, and what my vision is as well, which is really important to add. Where do I want to take myself? Where does my world go? But how I'm going to get there is life's journey, and it will sometimes be painful, it will sometimes be joyous, and it will be, hopefully, at least for me, I can say that, always of opportunity to learn and grow.
Yes, thank you for bringing also this word of spirituality to a certain extent, and also the whole new realm that it's kind of being more merged with business. And the ultimate idea, I guess, it's how can we collectively elevate suffering of humanity and also nature on this one planet that we are having.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So everyone, hopefully the journey starts within and by knowing yourself. Julia, we are coming to almost an end. And even though I think just the interesting part starts now, but that's great. We will have another occasion to go deeper, especially on this individual journey. Maybe just as we got also some of the requests or questions earlier, but also connecting us to our title. So what happens after purpose, and what is beyond purpose, as maybe your last thought?
Yeah, there's two dimensions that I could answer that question. The first thing, beyond purpose, is bringing it to life on a more tactical level, or the one way, as we've just said, as individuals, to go the journey. Then I think the same applies for an organization, because ultimately an organization is just like us, an organism that wants to move forward. But what goes beyond purpose for me at a more meta level is, I think it's time, and you said it also so nicely, it's time to acknowledge ourselves as human beings that not only have logic and can process purpose and can bring purpose to life in that we execute on it, but we're human beings that have intelligences that are both emotional, spiritual, our nature intelligence that we need to bring into our doing. And I think that's the only way we're going to succeed. So purpose is going to become multidimensional and included in different ways, because we're, as human beings, going to expand our intelligences in the business world. That's my hope, at least.
Thank you. And I guess maybe as a takeaway, right, when businesses do operate with purpose, it can have many positive implications, whether, as you mentioned at the beginning, really retaining and attracting customers, employees, investors who share actually the same values. And yeah, it's about, I guess, leading this long-term success of organizations, understanding or having an orientation, why will you be relevant 10 years from now, having sustainable growth and a positive impact on society as well as on environment. So yeah, hopefully everyone who was listening or tuning in, you got some grasp on. I will start now why there is a need for real inner work, to start with that, then to act responsibly and really mobilize the whole organization to embed the purpose, to act collectively to create positive impact, and then as well the focus on power of community. I love to finish these talks with one personal last question, and that is, what is one word that world needs right now?
Love.
Thank you. Let's merge also those two words, and yes, thank you so much for tuning in, Julia.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, keep on with great work. Thanks, everyone.
You too.
See you next month. Ciao.